Hello, everybody. Hello, Stacey.
Hello.
We'll just let everybody jump in here, give them a few minutes to get settled. I also noticed that we're matching today in green.
I feel like you
Yeah,
wore that on purpose. I mean, maybe
yeah,
not, but I'm going to tell myself that.
yeah. Strategy.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's very springy, which is very different to my weather right now.
Sometimes we have to bring our own sunshine when the weather is not awesome.
Yes, absolutely. It is a bit wintry. So while everyone's jumping in, you guys want to let us know where you're joining us from, and is it wintry there, or are you enjoying this end of fall sunshine still? Because yeah, we definitely had our first major snowfall here in Northern Ontario.
It got really cold here. I'm in Charlotte. It got really cold a week ago, and now it's like back up to 50, 60 degrees. Like it's crazy.
Mm. Boy, up and down.
Up and down. That's very true.
New York, yes. You guys usually mirror us in Ontario a bit.
Oh yeah, Florida, probably still very warm. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, and it's Gloria. Sorry, just saw who it was. Hi, Gloria. No
I'm
snow.
surprised, Dakota,
Unfortunately, no
that
snow.
Colorado doesn't have any snow yet. And when I was
Mhm.
younger, we lived in Boulder for a couple of years, and I feel like all it did was snow, like year round. I'm sure it didn't, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we usually have more snow than we do right now, but yeah, that weather, man, she's unpredictable.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Louisa, for your comment. I love that you read my first book and you're looking forward to today. Thank you. Now you'll have to go grab the second book too, the one that just came out. So,
Education is important. Learning, learning, learning all the time.
yes, particularly when it can grow our business, even more important.
Yes, absolutely.
The first book, Christina, is Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. So that's the first book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. And the second book, only because it's new, I have it still sitting on my desk, is the Referable Client Experience. So this is the second book. And this is the one that came out at the end of October, the Referable Client Experience. So they're both wherever you buy books. So, and there's ebooks, printed and audio of both books. So however you like to consume your knowledge.
You can find it all.
Yeah.
Well, looks like we are rolling along. So I might just get us started, and then people, as they jump in, will. Some of them have heard my little spiel already a few times. So I will start by saying hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's Work of Design Live webinar presented by MyDoma by Studio Designer. If you're new here, MyDoma is the platform built for interior designers to streamline projects, enhance client experience, and simplify the business side of design. Today, we're thrilled to welcome Stacey Brown Randall, award-winning author, creator of the Referrals Without Asking methodology, and host of the Roadmap to Referrals podcast. Stacey is known for helping business owners generate high-quality referrals naturally without asking, compensating, or resorting to gimmicks. So in today's session, Ending Your Year Referral Strong, Stacey will show you how to evaluate your referral performance, spot any missed opportunities, and set the right metrics to strengthen your referral strategy going into the new year. As always, we'll have a Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop questions into the Q&A box at any time. And don't worry if you need to step away, the session is being recorded and will be sent to all the registrants afterwards. So with all of that housekeeping out of the way, Stacey, I will hand it over to you, and you might see me pop in if you need any help with the chat or the Q&A, and otherwise I'll see you in a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here today and to my Doma for having me present this. When we had a conversation about this being the topic, I was very excited. I was like, oh, I usually only talk about this stuff with my clients. I'll be very excited to dive in to, you got to think data is sexy probably to truly love everything about today's session, but we're going to make it so much fun. I'm excited to talk about ending the year referral strong and kind of giving you guys part of the playbook that I talk to my clients about. So, If you don't have anything to write with, you may want to get it, or maybe have your phone ready so you can take some screenshots of some of the slides I'm going to share so that you are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to get into it. All right, here we go. Okay, so as we dive in, by all means, as I go through this, we have a good amount to get through. So if you have questions, pop them into the Q&A or the chat, and then we'll just hold them for the end. And that may be helpful for everybody so I can answer all the questions at one time. So we want to talk about what it looks like to end the year referral strong. So as you can imagine, that's going to be a little bit of reflection and a little bit of getting ready for next year. But before we can dive into what it looks like from a metrics or a data perspective to end the year referral strong, we kind of need to talk about what I call the elephant in the room when it comes to referrals. And that is that there is a lot of noise, a lot of static, a lot of different opinions and myths and lies that we believe about referrals because there's a lot of folks talking about it. It's something that most folks are interested in. And so there just creates this like vacuum in the marketplace of noise regarding referrals. And it kind of makes it hard to figure out what you ultimately should think and believe and take action on. So why is that? Right? Why is there so much noise? Why is there so many differing opinions? Why is there so many different ways of talking about referrals? And, some of those things for me is they're the myths or the lies of things that we believe about referrals that are not true. And I want us to talk about those things today as well. But why is there so much noise when it comes to referrals? Well, here's the thing. We all need clients, right? To breathe, to pay mortgages, to pay staff, to pay ourselves, right? To afford our business, we need clients and we need paying clients. Every business has that in common, right? So we all need clients. And when clients are referred, well, that feels great, right? You're like, oh, this client, that felt a little easier, right? This client was referred to me by another client or by a contractor. Like, this feels a little easier. This feels great. I love this, right? But even more so, referrals speak to us at our like deepest level of something we don't usually talk about, which is when you receive a referral, it answers the question with a resounding yes. Am I valuable? It's one thing for our clients to trust us. It's another thing for our clients to say, I trust them enough that I'm going to tell somebody else and refer someone else and put my reputation on the line to refer someone else to you. This is why referrals are so amazing, right? But it's also why there's a lot of noise regarding referrals. And for that reason, right, you see a lot of people out there today touting referrals, and I did put them in air quotes, right? Touting referrals as an outcome of whatever it is they're selling. So insert whatever it is they're selling, right? You see it as an outcome of the social media strategy, as the outcome of the newsletter, as an outcome of the website, as an outcome of this SEO strategy or online marketing strategy or this networking strategy. They're touted referrals are touted as the outcome of what a lot of people are selling because they know that's going to get your attention. If we say do XYZ and you can get referrals, like it's going to get people's attention. So people use it as an outcome in whatever they're selling. And unfortunately, that has diluted the truth and the reality of what referrals are and what actually makes referrals happen. Right now, lots of things out there that you can do in your business will get you a couple of referrals, right? Send a newsletter, website, all this stuff is important. Newsletters, websites, social media, SEO strategies, right? You should have a multi-pronged approach to how you grow your business. But when people say an outcome of that will be consistent, steady referrals, what it typically means is you'll get some. But what we want are consistent. What we want are referrals that we know are going to show up in a certain number every single year. And people borrow that truth when they're selling whatever it is that they're selling, whatever sales strategy, whatever marketing strategy that they're selling, because referrals can happen in different ways. but it's really diluted how people define referrals, what they think about referrals, and how they go about thinking they're supposed to generate referrals. And so, what I want you to understand is how I teach referrals differently because everything else we're going to talk about is this. Now, I work with interior designers. There are, of course, other industries that I work with as well. But what I do and the way that I work with my clients is that we are going to talk about generating referrals without asking or incentivizing or networking all the time or feeling like we're being gimmicky, like putting in our email signature, the greatest compliment you can give me is a referral, right? So I know out there in the marketplace, there's a lot of people talking about referrals and how to get them. And there's a lot of advice out there about what that looks like. But before you can understand everything I want to teach you today and some like quick wins I want you to have, I need you to understand the philosophy from where I teach because I am different. I am a contrarian in this space. And I do teach referrals with no asking, no paying, not feeling like you have to network all the time so you're never forgotten, right? And you don't have to be gimmicky and promotional to receive them. But for that to be true, there's a couple of fundamentals we have to be on the same page about so you understand where I'm coming from. So, a couple of fundamentals, and then we're going to dive into how we look at the metrics behind the referrals and what that means about the health of your business and how referral strong you are. So, the first fundamental I need you to understand is the way that I teach referrals, referrals come from relationships. But what most get wrong is how you nurture and cultivate those relationships, right? It's going to have to look different if you're never asking people to refer you, right? But really what it matters from a relationship perspective and how you cultivate and nurture that relationship and what people get wrong is because they don't understand the science behind referrals. Right? They don't understand that the two things that must exist for a referral to happen is desire and opportunity. And you only control desire, not opportunity. So the strategies, right? The how we look at things, the tactics, the plans, the language, everything comes from this idea of understanding the science behind referrals, understanding how desire and opportunity plays into referrals, knowing that referrals come from relationships. But a lot of people are teaching you how to generate or how to nurture those relationships, and they're just not doing it quite right from that perspective. The second fundamental I need you to understand is that when you're going about generating referrals, you should never feel like you're compromising who you are or your relationships. It's one of the reasons why I teach you how to generate referrals without asking for them. Because fundamentally, for me, I feel like that is compromising my relationship that I have with people. So I set out to build a strategy where I didn't have to do that, right? Of course, it's rooted in the science of how and why referrals happen. Really important to note. Because ultimately, what most of the people I work with are looking for is a calm certainty. They want to feel good and confident and proud in how they go about generating referrals. They don't want to feel like they're manipulating. They don't want to feel like desperate or awkward, right? Or they're trying to take advantage of reciprocity. They want to feel good, have that calm certainty of how they're generating their referrals. So it's another fundamental belief that I have, and it is a through line throughout everything that I teach. And the third fundamental that I need you to understand about referrals is that referrals live in an ecosystem in your business. Referrals are not a nail, and the only solution you need or the only tool you need is a hammer, right? Referrals are truly, it's not about the one tactic or the one trick or this one script, right? You need a fully stocked toolbox of the right foundational strategies, plans, workflows, language, so that you are being able to cultivate referrals from the entire ecosystem within your business. So if someone's teaching you how to ask, that's the one tactic that they're teaching, and it's just leaving so much opportunity on the table. So when I'm asking you to look at some metrics, you're going to be like, I've never thought to pull that information. It's because I know referrals live in multiple places in your business, and I want us to be aware of it all because that's awareness is the first step to being able to be strong and understanding how we're doing something. And in this case, being referral strong. So these are our fundamentals that I want you to know. But how we figure out how to end the year referral strong is by recognizing where we're starting from. Where are you starting from right now? Let's look at where you are, and then we can determine how we end it strong and how we do better next year as well. So there are a couple of key metrics that I always want you to be able to give me the answer on. So if I were to walk up to you at like maybe High Point Market, or I was to see you at, online somewhere, or I was to like be in your town and we were to run into each other, and I would be like, hey, I know you know your referral metrics. These are the numbers I would want you to be able to tell me. So I want to give these to you. I want you to write them down. Ask any questions you have in the chat, of course, or in the Q&A. And so we can go deeper into these if anything is confusing. But I want to get really clear on these metrics I want you to understand. Okay, so first is number one is how many referrals have you received so far this year? You should always know your yearly referral number. Now, I want to be really clear because I see this all the time with my designers. A referral is not a repeat client. So if you have a client you worked with in 2018 and then they came back around to do another project with you in 2025, they did not refer themselves. They do not count as a referral. They are a repeat client. So that's the source, right? You're going to put them down as a repeat client, right? It's also the referrals you received in 2025 is not a continuation of a project that may have started in 2024 or even earlier. So I have the privilege of when I work with interior designers, it's like seeing behind the scenes, right? And getting into the data. And I have lots of interior designers that will tell me my business comes from referrals. And I'm like, great, that means we got stuff to work with. This is exciting. And then I get into the data and I start looking at things like this. And I start seeing the same name on the 2024 data as I would see, or in the 25 data as I would see in the 24 data, as I would see in the 23 data. And I'd ask questions like, wait, you're saying this is 3 referrals over 3 years, but it's the same client. And so I would hear things like, oh no, their project was a continuation. I'm like, well, they were new in 2023. Their project just continued until 2025. They don't count as a referral in 24 or 25. They were only a referral to you in 23, right? Or I would see like a client's name up multiple times over a couple of years, but it would be different projects. I'm like, no, that's a repeat client, not a referral. Most of the folks that I work with are surprised that what they think are referrals are not, because referrals come from humans. So they're not coming from an online platform. House does not refer you. They send you a lead, right? So House is the source, but it is not a referral source, because a referral source is always going to be a human, which means they have a first and last name. Okay. So just curious, you guys hop into the chat and tell me how many referrals, even if you don't know, let's just do a guesstimate. You can do this data later and then you'll be able to tell me what it looks like. But hop into the chat and tell me how many referrals you've received year to date. Your guesstimate. You don't have to know this perfectly. Ranges are fine. Eventually, I want you to get down to a firm number. But hop into the chat and tell me how many referrals do you think you've received so far? Just give it a second. We'll let a couple of folks say, how many referrals do I think I've gotten so far this year? Okay, perfect. Aisha has 20. Excellent. This inspires me to start tracking. Christina, I love that. Maybe we're thinking 20. I love it. Gloria, 15. Awesome. Guys, there's not a right or wrong. There's nothing wrong with your business if your number is low. It's just, we got to know. Like, this is just the number we got to know. Jacqueline, 2. Perfect. Great. Right? Excellent. 6. Okay, good. Now, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do is confirm your number. So you're giving me a guesstimate. Some of you may be like, I know because I track. Others of you are like, I think, but I'm going to go verify, right? It's like with our kids, trust, but verify. You're going to go trust your numbers, but you're going to go verify that they're right. 1, 4, great. These are other great numbers that you guys are sharing. Awesome. But how many referrals did you receive? This is so very important. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to do some tracking with this in just a little bit to make this easier, I promise. But awesome. Okay. More people are giving their numbers, right? We got a 3 in there as well. Awesome. Okay. Excellent. So let's talk about the next key metric that I want you to know, right? So this is our second key metric. First is the referrals you're receiving on a yearly basis. What is that number for this year? Our second key metric is the average number of referrals received in a year, which means there's a calculation you have to do for this number to make sense, right? So how we do our average yearly referrals calculation is we take at least 3 years worth of data. So you would take the number of referrals in 23, the number of referrals in 24, the number of referrals in 25. We're almost at the end of a year, so you can use that as a full year. If this were like March, You would not include 2025 numbers, right? You would include 22, 23, and 24. You can only pull though from how long you've been in business. So if you've been in business 10 years, this should not be a problem. If you've only been in business for 1 year, the first year becomes the average until you have more data. All right. So you take your number of referrals, not repeat clients, not continuation of clients. You take your number of referrals in 23, 24, and 25, and then you divide them by 3. And that gives you a number. So I don't do public math very well, so I'm going to use very easy numbers for me. Okay. Let's say in 2023, you got 10 referrals. And then in 2024, you got 20 referrals. And then in 2025, you got 15 referrals. So if we take 10, 20, and 15, we add them together and divide by 3, I believe I am correct when I say your average is 15. Okay. So knowing the average number of referrals that you receive in a year gives us a longevity, right? It looks at this from the long game. Some years will be higher than others, right? I even tell my clients, when you start working with me, you're probably going to have like an uptick in success and then you're going to start leveling out, but you'll level out at a new level. And that's important to recognize because these are coming from humans, not an algorithm. And so we need to understand how that looks. So the question is, what is your guesstimate of the number or the average of referrals that you're receiving in a year? What's your guesstimate from that perspective? How many do you guess is the average number you get? If you take the last couple of years and add them together, right? Okay, so we have one person who thinks their average is 3. Great, perfect. Knowledge is power, my friend. Knowledge is power. All right, let's see who else we've got. 10. Okay, we think we have an average of 10. This is awesome. Great, great, great. See it? Now, I do want to say, perfect. As you guys are adding more, Gloria's got 6. Perfect. As you guys are adding more in, I do always like to set the stage for folks when they're thinking about how I talk about these numbers. If you were to go to my website and you were to see some of the interior designers or other business owners that I've worked with, because I do work outside of this interior design space as well. But if you were to go and you were to read their case studies or their testimonials, right? And they would say, okay, I've gotten this many referrals, and then Stacey helped me double that number or quadruple that number or whatever it is. It's usually off their average or the last year. So if they got like 10 referrals in 2024, then and we're looking to double it, that's how we're going to get them to 20. So I always like to put the testimonials and case studies that people see in context for what that looks like. Lynn asked, are you only counting referrals that lead to a yes? No, ma'am. We are counting any referral received, regardless of outcome. And that's such a great question and very important. We're going to get to the signed contract step as a metric in just a minute. But this is anybody that is referred to you, whether they were not the right fit, you close them as a client, or they chose to go in a different direction and said no, or they're just still on hold because they can't make up their mind. So we are looking at referrals received are the prospects that are referred to you regardless of outcome. That's our number of referrals in a year and our average number of referrals in a year as well. So great question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, let's talk about referral metric number 3. The number of active referral sources you have. So the number of active referral sources, there's a way we define this. Your referral sources, again, are going to be humans. They can be your clients. They can be your centers of influence. So people in the trades, contractors, architects, real estate agents, right? Other people. And they may also be family and friends. Some of you may not have family and friends that ever refer you, and some of you may. The majority of the time we spend building out strategies to get more referrals from our referral sources, we're focused on clients and COIs. So we're focused on our clients and, of course, like the contractors and the architects and the real estate agents, right? And the other folks that are in the trades, but also other folks that would be considered COIs that may not be like the contractor or the architect. So that's kind of like what we call the types of referral sources for you guys: clients, COIs, family, and friends. Active means they've actually referred you someone, at least one, in the past 2 years. If it's been longer than 2 years, we actually refer to them as inactive, right? Because we just got to look at them a little bit differently before we start cultivating referrals from them. And you have to know their name. RS is my abbreviation for referral source, right? So you must know the referral source's name. And that means a first and a last name, unless Madonna is referring to you. And then you can use a first name. But we need first and last names. They've referred to you in the last 2 years. And of course, they're going to fall in a couple of different types, like clients, COIs, family, and friends. So you guys know what to do here. You know the next question that's coming. How many active referral sources do you think you have? How many active referral sources do you think you have right now? Let's open up the chat and take a look at this. All right, looks like we've got a 7 active referral sources. Great. 8 active. Love it. Thank you, Cheryl. That's wonderful. Again, there's no right or wrong. We're not doing comparison. This is just the reality, right? That's 5. Okay, Gloria has 5. Susan has 4. Christine, types or quantity? So no, this is how many humans. Yeah. So this is how many humans of our referral sources do we have, but they would be active. So of like, let me just use um Susan for is that we got 4, right? Or is it Suzanne? Sorry. We've got 4, right? Let's say maybe 2 of those are clients and 2 of those are COIs. So from that perspective. So the idea is how many referral sources do you have that have referred you in the last 2 years and they're falling in the category of clients, centers of influence, and of course, family and friends. But don't feel bad if you don't have family and friends refer you. I'm pretty sure my mother still doesn't understand what I do. So I don't think she would actually ever refer to me. So don't worry about that at all. So one of the things I want you to pay attention to is how closely aligned your questions are, right? Or your answers are, right? So the idea that like, hey, if you're not tracking this, how true are your numbers? Just kind of keep that in mind. Like if you think like, I don't know, like maybe 20 and that maybe it means I have 40 people or maybe 10 people and maybe 15 referrals, well, you'll know this once you actually dive into the data. But these are the numbers I want you to know. So this is perfect. You guys are doing great. Okay, so here's our last metric that I want you to track. This is our 4th referral metric that I want you to track. And that is, what is your closing ratio of referred prospects to actually paying clients? So if you're looking at your 2025 referrals and you have 10 and you've closed 5 of them, right? Then we know we're looking at a 50% closing ratio. So that's really important. What is your closing ratio of referred prospects to paying clients? Now, the math of that is you take the number of paying clients and you divide it by the number of referred prospects. So again, if I got 20 referrals, right? And out of those, I got 10 paying clients and my closing ratio was 50%. If I got 20 referrals and I only closed 5, then my closing ratio is 25%. So this is important too. Here's what people don't know about this data. It tells me so much about what's happening inside your business, particularly from a referral perspective. By knowing how many referrals you've received this year, and I know your average number of referrals you usually receive on an average in a year. I know how many active referral sources you have, so people who've been referring you right over the last 2 years. And then I know your closing ratio of when you get a referral, how many are you closing into a paying client? I know instantly, are we getting enough referrals? Do we have a quality issue? Do we have a closing issue? Do we have a few referral sources that when you get a referral, you close all of them? And then other referral sources, you get lots of referrals from them and you close nobody. I know if you have a power referral source inside your business, because that's someone who refers you more, usually double digits than anybody else, but not always. Sometimes like 5 is a double digit for some folks in terms of a power referral source. It tells me so much about what's going on in your business that then we know how to deploy strategies and tactics from there. So again, you guys know, I didn't ask this question on closing ratio because I didn't want to make anyone be like, I don't know, and that's embarrassing. But if you do know your closing ratio, before I move on, let's just see if anybody has an idea of what they're, okay, 30%. Perfect. Let's see. I think that's shrunk from 90 to 50. Not sure if it's the time of year or when the ratio reduces, self-confidence is down. Could be, Gloria. I mean, you may have tapped into something there. 38%. I feel like, Cheryl, that's probably very much a defined number because it's not a whole number. So that is one thing. Definitely, I love, love, love seeing that. Let's see. There's somebody else that came in. 4 or 5 people that actively send referrals and almost 100% closing ratio. I weeded out the ones that I didn't want to work with. Awesome. When you say that, Jenna, do you mean you weeded out the clients or the referral sources that were sending potential clients? Because that's 2 types of weeding. Both can be very important. I'm just curious how you meant that comment from that perspective. Perfect. I love, Christina, knowing that you religiously track what actually becomes a client. It's really important. Okay, perfect. Yes. So, Gloria, I think it's Gina. Am I saying that right? I apologize if I'm not. You can get lots of referrals and not close any or as many as you expect. This is an interesting year. Like when I have interior designers I've been working with, I have one that I started working with in 2023, and we watched her numbers in 23, and then we watched her numbers in 24, and now we're looking at her numbers in 25. They're down, right? That's not anything that says the strategies aren't working. You guys are not immune to what's going on in the economy and the environment. That is true, right? That's just real. So we will expect to see fluctuations in this. Absolutely. Okay, Jenna said the client. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Sometimes it's weeding out the referral source, right? If we're sending you people, you're like, I don't want to work with these people you keep sending to me. How you have that conversation is very important. But yes, weeding them out is we it's not a great word, but we call it purging the list at the end of every year. It's a process I take my clients through where we remove those that we're just not going to keep cultivating referrals from. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. Um, okay, Christina says not exactly based on referrals in terms of what you track, but on intakes that turn into projects. Yeah, some of ours are not your definition of referrals because some are Google referred. So here's the thing: the source is Google. It's not Google does not refer anyone to you. The source is just Google. So you should have a closing ratio for your Google leads, which is different from the closing ratio of the people who referred a human referred you a client or a prospect. So Google referred, like when we think about it, it's like those are separate. Yeah, perfect. So Google's got its closing ratio, Howl's has its closing ratio, your social media has its closing ratio, and then your referrals, people being actually referred to you by another person, has its own closing ratio. Tracking it all is great. I love that. I'm loving the light bulbs that are going off here, folks. Excellent. Okay, so now those are our 4 key metrics. If you're thinking to yourself, I guess through all of those, I don't actually know. Here's the easy part. Like, here's the best part. We're going to make this easier for next year. And how we're going to do that is by tracking. So hopefully tracking is not a bad word in your business. I know some of my clients are like, ugh, tracking. It's so not sexy and fun, but it is so very important, right? So if you're using something like MyDoma, right, we're making the tracking easy, keep all this information in one place. But I also would just want to show you when my clients come into my program and start working with me, we start on a spreadsheet. We're not trying to make it complicated. As your business evolves, you should be in some type of software that is tracking everything like a MyDoma, right? Like that's really important as your business grows. But even in that case, like the designers I work with that use MyDoma, right, they will pull reports for me in Excel because I can slice and dice data. So I wanted to show you exactly what my clients get when they're in their first year with me. And this is what we call the referral tracker. You can see this is the first tab. There's a lot of tabs there. It's the different strategies that we put into place. And we do tracking as it happens, and then we look at results based on a quarterly basis. So, but this is it, guys. These are the 5 columns. Go open up a spreadsheet, take a picture of this so you don't forget. You're going to put in the date that prospect arrived. You're going to put in the prospect's name. You're going to put in, like, so it says referral source name there. Some of my clients change that to just source, and then they'll put in the referral source's name, or they'll put in it came from Google. Some people like to keep it separate. Personally, I think it's easier to put all of your prospects here, and then you can sort and look which ones came from Google, which ones came from individual referral sources. Then we track outcome, right? Because throughout the year, not everybody says yes right away. So we're tracking yeses, we're tracking nos, we're tracking in process, we're tracking on hold till fourth quarter, right? So we're tracking outcome. And then, of course, we're tracking revenue. Right. We're tracking the revenue that project generated for the business because that matters as well. So this makes it really easy to kind of just see what this looks like. Like it's a spreadsheet with 5 columns. You don't need me to give this to you. You just create it for yourself. So make sure you take a picture of this. But this is I just pulled this right from the dashboard that I give to my clients to start using. But this is how we track that. And if you start today, and you start tracking this, even if you're putting into MyDoma and then you're pulling this information into a report or you're pulling it out and putting it into a spreadsheet, it really helps you get clear on what's happening. Because when I see this, this is when I know we're not getting enough referrals. You have more referral sources than we actually are getting referrals. What's going on? You're getting great referrals, but you're not closing them. Do we have a quality issue, a closing issue, right? Do we not know how to communicate correctly and follow up with our referral sources or follow up with our referred prospects? Why are we getting ghosted? We attack all of that because I can see it here and we can figure out what the problems are and then we can customize those responses back. So that's really important, but it all starts with tracking. Very, very important. Okay. The other thing that tracking does is it tells us where to spend our time. And let's be honest, time is our greatest commodity, and we can't make more of it. We can't get back tomorrow. It's already gone, right? So deciding where to spend your time, your data can drive those decisions, right? So what I always tell folks is start with the three buckets of the people who refer. Right. And so that first bucket is what we call existing referral sources. All those active referral sources and referral metric number two, that key metric number two, those are your existing referral sources. If you have names on that list, right, or maybe that was metric number three, apologies. But if you've got names on that list, you should know who they are. That's your list of gold. That is the best place to start. People who are already referring you, one of the things I do with my clients when they first start with me is I'm like, if we have existing referral sources, that's where we're going to get our ROI fast as possible. We're going to make sure we have a different plan, right? We're going to take care of those folks in a different way. We're going to nurture and generate referrals from those folks in a different way, right? But if key metric number three says, I've got 20 people, I've got 45 people that refer to me, I've got 5 people that refer to me, that's your low hanging fruit for the fastest referrals you'll get. It does depend on who they are, and it does depend on if they're giving you quality, right? Sometimes you get a referral from someone and then never again because it truly is a one-hit wonder. They knew like one person and thought to refer once, right? But a cultivation process with this group is how we usually get more referrals faster. The second bucket is the people you wish you were referring you. Most of you probably don't have enough people on that key metric number three of active referral sources to hit your growth goals with referrals in 2026. If you want 25 referrals in 2026 and you have 5 people referring you, we've got a lot of ground to make up in terms of having new people start referring you. And that's our potential referral sources. So in that case, right, we've got to have a different strategy in place where we identify who those folks are, right? Identify the clients we want to refer to us or alumni clients, right? Our past clients, identify the contractors, identify the architects, right? Sometimes it takes time to cultivate that. There is a client case study that I always like to share at this point because people always jump into like, I need new people referring me. And I'm like, that one takes longer. So I don't know how many of you guys know Janelle Blakely. She owns Blakely Designs. And I always get Connecticut and Rhode Island confused. I think she's in Rhode Island, but I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that. But she sent me an email one time. She was my client for a couple of years. She sent me an email and she was like, there was somebody that she wanted to have refer her. And she cultivated that relationship in the way that I teach it for like 18 months. 18 months. Some people give up after like 6 months or 12 months. But she was determined on the very first referral that she got from that person, cultivating them, that's never referred her before, $620,000. It was a $500,000 referral. And so from that case, as you look at her, right, the potential side of referral sources is definitely something to pay attention to. And if you need more people, you should be doing it, but it takes longer. And that has to be recognized. The third bucket of people who refer you are your clients. So it's one of the things I talk about a lot in my second book, the one that just came out, The Referable Client Experience, is understanding as clients are working with you, you can be percolating the idea of referrals. So that idea of we look at if we're going to decide where to spend our time, what strategies to put into place, where are we going to look at generating referrals so we don't have to ask or pay or manipulate or any of the things. We start with one of these three buckets, but eventually you'll want plans in place for all of them. And your results, those key metrics tell us where you should start. So, number one, if you have people referring you now, you probably want to spend more time with them. It's probably a great place to start to get more referrals. But you probably need to be cultivating new people to refer you, and you probably need a plan in place to make sure you're getting referrals from your clients too. Not all clients will refer, but if they have the opportunity, we want to make sure we're doing what we need to generate referrals from them. Okay, so looking at that from an existing referral source perspective, right? Here's how I want you to think about that. You have people referring you now. Key metric number three. Okay, they are probably responsible for the majority of the referrals you've gotten this year in 2025, and they're definitely responsible for that average, key metric number two, about the average number of referrals you get in a year. If you received more referrals from them, let's just say double. You got 5, and now you get 10 next year. What does that look like for your business, right? Whatever that number is, that helps you decide if this is where I need to spend some time, right? If I have 2 existing referral sources and I got 4 from them next year, that would be great. Maybe your question is that where I want to spend my time? Or do I really need to spend my time getting new people to refer me? And if it's new people, those are potential. Do you need more or maybe different people referring you? What does it look like for your business if you added 5 new people because you got a referral from each of them? 5 new referrals come from 5 new people, or 10 or more. This is about you making a strategic decision in your business as to where you want your referrals to come from. If you have potential, if you have existing referral sources and it's a healthy number, if you doubled it, then maybe that's where you want to build a strategy around and be intentional about that in 26. If you don't have enough people, maybe you need to focus on new people referring you and have a strategy around that and be intentional about that. Right? Once these get up and running, like we just need to get them running, right? Is usually how it works. But this helps you decide the decisions that you're ultimately going to make. And with clients, right, this is the idea. Are you percolating the idea of referrals from your clients within your client experience? And in particular, do you know what your referral hot zones are? Because that's when clients are more likely to refer. And there are some key moments for interior designers and some key referral hot zones for you guys to know and understand. And so maybe for you, you're like, you know what? I don't have a lot of existing referral sources, and I know it's going to take time to get potential people to start referring me. I'm going to start focusing on what I do have, which are clients, and the process that I run them through, making sure I'm referable, and then bridging the gap to referrals. Your metrics tell you where to start spending your time, but eventually you will get to a place where you'll want plans in place for all three: existing referral sources, potential referral sources, and of course, clients as well from that perspective. Okay. So then what's next? Because I want to make sure we finish enough time to answer any and all questions that you guys have. So what is that next step for you? This is it. And I have one thing I want to finish with, and I want to give all of you guys a quick win that I do with my clients in January. So I'm going to teach it to you now. I'm going to give you the recommendation to wait till January to do it, but I want you to know what it is now. But first, here's where you start. You need to finalize your tracking. Make sure you can pull the reports from wherever you put information in. Finalize how you're tracking, get that spreadsheet set up, dump in the data from this year and see what it looks like, right? Review your data from your key metrics. Go through and look at what is my average number of referrals because I pulled my referrals received in 23 and 24 and 25. Do the data, right? Answer those questions I just asked you, right? The questions about what if I got more from my existing referral sources? Do I have enough to start there? Should I focus on potentials, referral sources? Should I focus on clients? Answer those questions for yourself. And that will help you create how you're going to tackle 2026 and what you're going to do differently to take control of your referrals. It's going to give you your game plan, and you do one at a time. If you're like, I'm going to tackle my client experience and get referrals from that, get that into place, tackle that, get that working before you move on to something next. But understanding your numbers tells you where to spend your time. So definitely want to take any questions you guys have from that. But I have one more thing I want to do. This is not really on the topic of tracking and data and where you spend your time and creating a game plan, but hopefully it'll give you a quick win. And that is what I hope for all of you with referrals, because the more you get referrals, the more awesome it feels and the more you want to keep it going. And I want that for everybody. So here's a quick win. This is something I teach to my clients every January. I actually teach it live. I do a special session on it in January, depending on which program they're in. Then I have different programs of how people work with me. So particular to the folks that are in the program with me in my coaching program, I teach this to them every January. It's a quick win. And the question is, do you have lost referrals? Right? Lost referrals are the ones that you sometimes didn't close. So what I ask my clients to do is make a list of all the prospects from 24 and 25 who didn't say yes. Right? Everybody you talk to, everybody who landed in a discovery call, right? Or maybe they went further in the process. Make a list of all those people from 24 and 25 who did not say yes. And you know they didn't go with a competitor. If you don't know, they still make it to this list, right? But these are people who didn't say yes. They said no, not now. And you know they didn't go with a competitor, right? Or somebody else. Note the ones who were referred. Of those prospects from 24 and 25, note the ones who were referred and who referred them to you. So you're going to have, hey, here's my 15 prospects from 25, and here's my 10 prospects from 24. And next to them, I'm going to write out if they were referred, the name of the person who referred them to me. I believe this is best done in January because I feel like between Thanksgiving and the end of the year, it gets lost. But you could do this in December if you wanted to. I mean, you could do it today if you wanted to as well. You have to decide what the right timing is. I believe January usually works best, but you get to decide that. You're the grown up, you're the business owner, right? What you're going to do is you're going to reach out with, hey, I know when you were first referred to me, back in 2024 by and name the referral source, it wasn't the right time for us to work together. I just wanted to circle back around and see if now is the right time, right? So you're going to remind them who was referred. You're going to remind them of when they were referred to you. And then you're going to give them an out like, hey, may have not been the right time, right? We're not passing judgment, it just may have not been the right time. In some cases, you may even be confident to copy the referral source on that email that you're sending to that prospect. And in some cases, you may even want to reach out to the referral source to see if there's anything about the prospect they know that you should know before you reach out. You're re-engaging your referral source and the referral that they sent to you. And you're also reaching out to those prospects who very well in January of 2026, the answer could be, it is the right time. All the crazy is gone. Maybe not. Maybe the crazy is never gone in their lives, right? But now it is the right time, or this is going to be the year. And I'm glad you circled back around, right? That may be what you hear from these prospects. But I find that people get prospects referred to them. When they don't get a yes, they forget about them. And those are the easiest prospects to follow up with because once you remind them that they were referred to you, you instantly bring in the trust factor. Now, you're not going to close them. You didn't close them the first time. You may not close them right away the second time either, but you bring back in that trust factor and you get a reason to reach out. You get a reason to reach out and remind them that they were referred because you're just seeing if now's the right time because it wasn't when they were first referred to you. So if this is something that you're like, I've got some prospects who referred to me this year and last year, and I can do this with, give me a yes or maybe a heck yeah in the chat. Give me a yes or a heck yeah in the chat. I want to know who's going to take this opportunity to take these lost referrals and find them. Right? All right. So yes, I'm getting some yeses. This is what I'm looking for, right? You've got this, guys. This has to be an opportunity. Thank you for the heck yes. This happens to be the best thing that you can do. It's not a guarantee you're going to like land 5 new clients from it. But we don't know until you do it, right? So you got to do it. And how you do this matters. This is the stuff that I teach to my clients, which is kind of like how all these pieces work together. Everything I teach, this messaging I just gave you guys for this, thank goodness this is being recorded. If you have to go back and get the messaging, pull it out what I said. The messaging that I give to you, yes, it probably sounds easy and great for you to say, but what I know is that it's been tested on prospects that for positive responses because everything I teach from a language perspective, a referral seed and language perspective is based on how the receiver is going to feel receiving it. And that goes back to one of those fundamentals I talked about of like how we nurture relationships and how we don't compromise our relationships or ourselves, how we treat them, all that matters. And that's a big part of how I teach what I teach. So this was awesome. Great. I'm so glad of those of you who are definitely going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come out and I hope there are some questions that I get to answer.
Yes, there's a few in the chat if you want to kind of jump in there and
Yes.
see a couple that I think you didn't touch on about referral hot zones. And I think you talked about them, but I think there's a few in there. And then I know there's one in the Q&A box. And while you're looking at those, I am going to quickly launch a poll just to see who here is in the room might be interested in learning more, who might want to learn a bit more about Mydoma. So happy to do that while we're prepping for these last few questions and chat.
Yes, I'm pulling this up. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna start with the Q&A and then I'm gonna go to the questions in the chat. Okay, how often do you review referral data during the year? How often do you push for lost referrals? Okay, perfect. This is great. Okay, so how often you review your referral data during the year is you are tracking it in that spreadsheet I showed you. You're adding in the referrals as they come, right? So as a prospect comes in that's referred to you, you're adding it to that tracker. Most of my clients are then reviewing that monthly. And then I'm reviewing it with them quarterly. And the reason, and then of course, we're doing it at the end of the year as well. So there's all these pieces to it, right? But when we're looking at what's happening, we want to make sure that we're tracking it in the moment. And then we're looking at it on a monthly basis. Sometimes because we're like, is there anybody I forgot to follow up with? Right. So sometimes that's the question. Sometimes it's to go back and update the spreadsheet because the client said yes. And now you get to put a yes in the outcome column. And then the revenue that was generated, which is always a fun column to put dollar numbers in, right? And so we are pulling the information in daily or like when it happens, so to speak, but at a minimum monthly. But here's the thing, we don't track our results monthly. We then do that by a quarterly basis. And the reason for that is because referrals come from humans. This is not an algorithm, right? We're talking about humans that are referring, and we expect to see a little bit of this, right? We expect that things are going to happen where you'll get a few referrals and then it may get a little quiet. And I don't want my clients fixated on the month to month numbers. I want them fixated on the quarterly numbers. I have a client, for example, whatever reason, 4 years working with them, never got a referral in the month of April. Nope. I can't explain it. I don't know why that happened. It's weird, right? They get a lot of referrals every other month, but none in April. And they don't do taxes. They're not a CPA. So I'm like, I don't know why you're not getting referrals in April. But the third year it happened, they panicked and they're like, we didn't get any referrals this month. But I knew we looked at this data quarterly and yearly, and I'm like, you never get referrals in April. The last two April says you haven't gotten referrals. And they're like, oh, right. And they instantly calmed down. They're like, this is what it looks like because we are tracking quarterly and then we're looking at everything on a yearly basis. So excellent, excellent question. That's how I have my clients look at it. So I'm always going into their spreadsheets because we share Google Drives individually, private folders with clients. And I do go look at that first tab of like what's been happening over the last month or the last couple of weeks. But when I'm tracking for like, here's where we want to make improvements or tweaks or changes or just celebrate, I'm looking at that quarterly tab because we're looking at it quarterly. Then my clients come together at the end of the year. We do a year-end retreat. It's included in how they work with me. If they're my coaching program or a VIP, they come together in December. So they'll be with me 8th and 9th, and we'll do a whole year review. So we also do a yearly review as well as we get ready for the next year. So that's an excellent question. Okay. It was anonymous. So I don't know who to thank for it. But let me see what the other questions were that we have because I know we have a couple of more that have come in. Okay, so let's go back to these are both client experience ones. Can you talk more about the referral hot zones? And do you have recommendations on how to percolate these referrals within your client process? Okay, yeah. So let me talk first about referral hot zones. There are 3 ways to generate referrals within your client experience. I break each of these 3 ways down in my book, The Referable Client Experience. So I'm about to give you a very high level answer. It's not going to be fair. So you may want to go get the book so you can dig in a little bit more. But referral hot zones are one of 3 ways. The first way is the right people. You can't build a strategy around the right people. We don't know they're the right people because they just start referring and they identify themselves. They self-identify. When they start referring, we put them in our existing referral source plan, and that's how we get more referrals from them and cultivate them and love on them, right? The other 2 ways are referral hot zones. Those are moments within your client experience where you are more likely to have referrals received. In chapter 8 of the book, I break down how to identify your referral hot zones, and I give you 3 ways to do it based on how like detailed you want to get or how lazy you want to be with it. Right? We have a way for everybody. But you're going to look at it's when you're more likely when a client is working with you and they hit a particular stage or moment that they are more likely to give referrals. Meaning, hey, when a client hits to the install, right, or the photography date, or when we're showing them the design board, we just seem to get more referrals from clients in that moment. When you have a referral hot zone like that, depending on what it is, we then look at planting referral seeds in that moment. And that language piece that we do is really like what I always tell my clients, like that is the secret sauce of what I teach is it's not just the recognizing we have a referral hot zone, but it's like, what are we going to say in that moment, right? From that perspective. Now, most people like in that second question that comes from Jenna, like, how do you percolate the idea of referrals in your client process? Hot zones are great. Right. So are the like when things are said, we call them the right moments. When just certain things are said, I want you to know how to respond. But here's one, I'll just give you this tip so you guys can kind of put this in context. Here's one that everybody can do. And I talk about it in the book. If you have a client that was referred to you, the easiest way to percolate the idea to that client is to remind them that they were referred to you. right? I know it sounds simple, but how you do that matters. You do not say, you were referred to me. Now give me some referrals. Like that's bad. Like don't do that, right? How you say that is, Christina, I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to work together. I mean, and just imagine it wouldn't have been possible if Jenna hadn't actually referred you to me, right? That's how we percolate the idea of referrals to our clients if they were referred to us, right? We can't say that to clients who weren't referred. We do other things, but the idea here is that when you start, you're going to mention it. When you finish, you're going to mention it, and you're probably going to mention it a couple of times in between as well, right? Like when you're done, gosh, this was an amazing kitchen renovation that we did. I'm so thrilled that you trusted us and that we got to be your partner in this journey and we got to help you create this amazing kitchen. I've got to remember to go thank Jenna again for sending you to me because you were a dream of a client to work with. Right. So that's one way we percolate referral seeds. Here's what people get wrong about the language. They overcomplicate it and they think they need like 52 scripts and they need to understand exactly. Most of the time, it's just we're shifting a little bit of what you're going to say anyway, and we're planting a referral seed. Um, but you can overdo this, and then it will backfire, and you'll have the opposite effect, right? If you say it every time you talk to that client, it's not going to have the impact. In fact, they'll notice you keep saying it, and it will be more of a turnoff than it will be actually producing the results you want. So that is the percolating the idea of referrals. And sometimes it's just in the things that we do and the things that we say. So from that perspective, I see I got another question. Do I have time to answer another one? Okay, cool. From Christina. How important is it to know if you are ready to scale, if all of these referrals turn into projects? Okay, the scaling conversation. It's always good, right? Here's the thing. I think when you are dealing with referrals, what you have to recognize is referrals are evergreen, right? Which means you should have a referral strategy or multiple, like an overall referral strategy in place with multiple plans running every year. But there will always be highs and lows to your referrals. That's just how it works, right? So being strategic in who refers to you is a better question to ask when you're thinking about scaling. So if all of your referrals come from clients, right? And they don't come, or like 50% of them don't come from trades, contractors, builders, architects, right? People who are more going to see more of your ideal client more often. The question for scaling comes into of who's referring to me, who has the greatest opportunity, because that opportunity will probably continue as long as they stay in business. Clients, it's a little harder to know, right? So if all your clients refer you, it's a little harder to note that they are always going to come across opportunity and need to refer to someone like you, right? But contractor, builder, architect, right? Those folks are going to find themselves in a position where they need clients and they probably need you as part of the process, or maybe not, right? But they need you to make that process work. And so referrals are going to happen. If you've got, this is what I always tell my designers, if you've got a handful of contractors or architects and or real estate agents, whatever it looks like in the trades that are referring to you, right? There's a little bit more of a consistency there. And so that's when we really start thinking about if we're going to make scaling decisions based on referrals, it's who's referring you and their consistency that would have a comfort level in doing that from that perspective. Because it is true, I don't sugarcoat things. When my clients work with me, we will see an increase in referrals, but that doesn't mean we may not have some down quarters or some down years. That will happen too. So the who's referring to you matters more when you're answering the scaling question or having that scaling conversation with yourself. That's an excellent question.
Wow, wow, wow. I feel like that was like so much information and I loved it. I'm like, what referrals can I leverage here for my events?
Awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
glad.
Yeah. So I hope everybody else pulled all of that insight during this hour, which I honestly flew by. So I don't know if everybody else felt that, but yeah, it was so great. So thank you so much, Stacey, and thanks for everyone for joining us today. I know I think this was a really active chat, which I love to see. So it's great.
Yes. Well, it was a pleasure to be here. Thanks everybody for having me, for being here. If you have any questions, if you do the homework and you're like, I want Stacey to look at my numbers, if you do the homework, you should be rewarded and I would be happy to look at your numbers. Probably not next week, just because for us in the States, it's Thanksgiving. But if you do the homework and you're like, I want to get Stacey's opinion on my data, my metrics, send it to me, please. I'll go ahead and I guess and put my email address in the chat for anybody who wants it. But
Mhm.
please feel free. I mean, you can find it on my website too, but please feel free to email me if you want me to review your homework because you should be rewarded for that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And similar to Stacy and all of her business supports, my Doma is also here to help you streamline your workflow, strengthen your client experience, and support the kind of relationship-driven businesses that Stacy talked about today. So as a part of the Studio Designer family, we're committed to bringing you the tools, the education, and the guidance you need to grow with confidence. So we appreciate you spending your time with us today, and we can't wait to see you at the next Work of Design Live webinar. So thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.